My brothers and sisters, we are on number 38 out of 117 scriptures in the Old Testament that everyone should know. I want to talk with you about the prayer of Solomon today. And if you go to 1 Kings chapter 8, it's a marvelous chapter because it gives us a very lengthy prayer prayed by Solomon, who was a king. But at this moment, he begins to officiate the ceremony as if he were the high priest. So he's acting like a priest king. Very important to understand this because he's establishing something of a precedent. You know, the king who can act as a priest. David and Solomon both were priest kings. You don't see other kings in Israel doing this. But we know that when Christ comes, Christ has the ministry of priest, prophet, and king. He's par excellence, priest, prophet, and king. So let's go back to Solomon's prayer. Solomon is praying to God that God would consecrate the temple that he has just built. And as he's praying, the presence of God comes into the temple so that everyone has to leave. And essentially, God is hearing his prayer and saying, I am with you. I will dwell with my people here in Jerusalem. So let's go to 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 10. And if you go to 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 10, it says, And when the priest came out of the holy place, a cloud filled the house of the Lord, so that the priest could not stand to minister because of the cloud. For the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. Then Solomon said, The Lord has set the sun in the heavens, but has said that he would dwell in thick darkness. I have built thee an exalted house, a place for thee to dwell forever. Then the king faced about and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel stood. And he said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who with his hand has fulfilled what he promised with his mouth to David my father, saying, Since the day I brought my people Israel out of Egypt, I chose no city in all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house, that my name might be there. But I chose David to be over my people of Israel. Now it was in the heart of David my father to build a house for thee, for the name of the Lord and the God of Israel. But the Lord said to David my father, Whereas it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son, who shall be born of you, shall build the house for my name. And it was Solomon who was the son of David, who built the temple. And in this scene, you see the presence of God, the cloud of glory entering the temple, and God essentially saying, I'm dwelling in your midst. And so when we look at the scene of how the temple was built and erected and how all these promises were fulfilled, that David's son would build a house, we see how God fulfills his promise. But we also consider how this begins to help the Israelites understand that God is in their midst. And all of these expectations of God being in our midst, they reach their fulfillment in the person of Christ, who's truly with us.